Great. Well, welcome everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's seminar. My name is Jan Newton, and I'm the director of NANOOS. And today we are featuring one of our most popular apps, our NANOOS Visualizations Fishers app. And I want to give you just a little history. This is not only such an important app, but also it's one of our earliest. It is, in fact, our first one. Um, this was because a fisherman was looking at one of our ocean scientists that was involved in NANOOS, Alex Kurapov at Oregon State University, and he saw Alex's forecasting model, and one day it went down, and he emailed Alex and said, "Hey, what's up with this?" And I'm using it for looking at where I might find tuna fish, and the rest is history, as they say. But so early on, we had a tuna fishers app. But what is so great, and what is really the spirit of NANOOS, is to make sure that we are taking in people's input that helps us make our product better for you so that you can use it in the way that you want to for the decisions that you need to. So you'll notice today we do not call it our tuna fishers app. It is our fishers app. And that's because people who were catching salmon or crab told us, well, if you showed these data, we could use it for catching those organisms. So and I guess fishermen don't call it organisms. I'm a scientist. Anyway, for those critters. And so that's what today is all about, is for you to learn about this Fishers app and then also to give us a little feedback. I'm going to be monitoring the chat, and we want you to type questions that you may have at any time, because we're happy, the speakers are going to be happy to answer your questions in real time. And then we'll, at the end, have time for discussion. So it's my pleasure to turn the floor over to Rachel Wold, who will take us away for the rest of the seminar and introduce our other speaker. Okay, over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Jan. Make sure I'm not muted and you can all hear me. Thanks everyone for joining us. I'm really excited about this, and I'm so thrilled to have Charles from Ocean Coach join us. I know I've also seen some familiar names and faces in the chat. I think we've connected at the Saltwater Sports Show down in Salem. I'm just really thrilled. This has been a very engaging community. We've learned a lot about your data needs, and we're excited to continue working with you and to provide the ocean data that you need to find the fish and get home safely. So I'm going to give you a little walkthrough of the NVS Fishers app. And then I'm going to turn it over to Charles, who will give some more information about how he uses it and what he does. So, like Jan said, we will be taking questions throughout, so please feel free to enter those in the chat. So let me make sure I am here. There we go. So we are NANOOS. We're the Northwest Association of Networked Ocean Observing Systems. We are part of IOOS, the Integrated Ocean Observing Systems, which is a NOAA program. And we are charged with making ocean data accessible. That's what we do. We take data that's being collected from different institutions, different organizations, and we make it all available in one place. And we make it available for free on our website. And so we are the Pacific Northwest region of IOOS. As you can see, it's mostly Oregon and Washington. We also have partners in British Columbia. And this is a really wonderful and varied region with a lot of different uses and a lot of different user groups. And so what we do, we offer observations. These are near real-time observations from assets, from instruments that are out in the water or on the shore. We provide model forecasts. We also provide specific data products, like Jan mentioned, the data products that we developed specifically for tuna fishers. And all of this is available on our website. So it's just nanoos.org. There's a lot of information here, a lot of educational information. But what I'm going to talk about today is our NANOOS visualization system. This is where you can access all of the data I'm going to show you. And again, this is a web application. So all you need to do is go to this URL. That's nvs.nanoos.org. So you can pull this up on your computer, on your laptop, on your tablet. Any time that you have Wi-Fi or bandwidth, you can access this data. So there's a lot of information that we provide with NANOOS and on the NANOOS visualization system, or NVS. We have information, thousands of data streams from universities, from local, state, federal agencies, from tribal organizations, from shellfish growers. We have a lot of information from a lot of different organizations, and it's a lot. So this Data Explorer, that's kind of the kitchen sink. That's where you can, if you want, you can go play, you can find everything you want. But it's a lot to navigate. So we developed these user-specific applications. Maybe
Yeah.
there we go. So we developed these user-specific applications as a way to
Examine
make
your valuables, analyze the true
data a
value.
lot easier to access and easier to understand. So we do a lot of work engaging with these communities and find out what are the data needs. So for example, for fishers, uh, you guys, of course, want to know where might we find some fish and also safe navigation tools to get out on the water and come back. You might not be as interested in ocean acidification variables or other things. So that's being able to develop these user-specific applications has been really powerful for us to be able to engage with specific user groups. So you just go to this URL that I have up at the top, nvs.nanoos.org, and you can click any one of these. But I'm going to walk you through the fishers, and the direct URL is at the top. It's just nvs.nanoos.org/fishers. And this is what you see. It opens up, there's a guide that opens up. You can just close that. And it is based on just Google Maps. So you can interact with it like you would with Google Maps. You can zoom in and out, you can click and drag and move things around. And the way that we have this visualization system set up is with the menu on the left. And so you can navigate through that, click what you're interested in. There's also, you might notice a timeline down on the bottom. Each one of these dots tells you that that's where data is available, whether it's near real-time data or a modeled forecast. And so anywhere you click on here, that is the data that's going to be displayed on the map. So we have a lot of different tools, and what I'm going to do now is just kind of walk you through some of these specific capabilities and how you might use them. And again, please feel free to ask any questions or if you need a little information or want me to repeat something. So it opens up automatically by default. Here's the whole map. So here's the region, and it opens up default with the water temperature and surface currents set for tuna. This is our default because this whole app was developed because of feedback from the tuna fishers. So as we've added new capabilities and made it more useful for fishing other species, we wanted to still make sure that it's really easy and obvious for the tuna fishers. So this is when you click that URL, open up this page, this is what you see. And it's a little boring right now because it's winter, but here you can see the temperature range, the sea surface temperature range that we find most of the catches is really around like 61 degrees Fahrenheit to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Of course, it's winter right now. So there's not a lot of good resolution. The water temperature is going to be really similar right now. But in the summer, you'll see more pinks, more reds. You'll see a larger difference. But another really cool tool that we just recently added are these dynamic overlays. So I want to walk you through that a little bit. So if you look and see on the legend, that water temperature block is blue. That means that you can actually click it and you can interact with it and you can set your own temperature range. So right now it's set to 39.2 Fahrenheit to 64.4. But if you just click that fit data to range, it'll automatically set that dynamic range. And this is a really great way if you want to get higher resolution to see where those eddies are and just get a much better idea of what's happening at the surface.
Hey, Rachel, we have a question in the chat from Doug Wardell saying, is it possible to put topo lines on the map?
Yes, that's a wonderful suggestion, Doug. We actually used to have some topo lines, the bathymetry lines. The source of where we got that broke, and it's on the list of things that we're trying to figure out and fix for this upcoming season.
You might want to mention, are the charts still working as an overlay?
They are, and that's part of my presentation later.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, that's all right. Maybe all right. But thank you, Doug, and everyone, keep those questions coming. So one of the cool things about these overlays, so this is forecasted up for 3 days, and you can select down here on the timeline whatever day and time you're interested in. Then you can hover on the map and get the actual current speed and direction and water temperature at that location. So you don't have to, too far. So you don't have to just try to estimate using this legend. Anywhere you hover on the map will give you the specific currents and water temperature information at that location. So again, just really a great way to pinpoint where you might find those fish feeding. So recently, some of the engagement that I've done down in Salem and with other groups around the region is people have been interested in other species, not just tuna. So I spoke with a lot of people who fish salmon. They're very susceptible to low and high temperatures. So we created an overlay specifically for salmon. And same thing, you can click that and you can edit this however you want, and you can fit range to data to get higher resolution. A lot of cool tools and capabilities here. There we go. So now we're getting into some of the cool, some more of the cool data products that we've developed for fishers. The pycnocline is something that was specifically asked of us. And so this is a little complicated. So it's the depth of the greatest vertical water density. So where the water density is the greatest. So what it's really telling you is points of convergence. So where different waters are converging. And that tends to be a high productivity area. So the way that you use this is using your sea surface temperature and surface current map. You get an idea of where the tuna might be or the salmon might be, depending on temperature. Then you come look at the pycnocline and you hover at that area and you can see at what depth you might find them. At what depth is that convergence happening? So this is a way to give you a more 3D idea of where those fish might be. And if you think because of the surface current and temperature, you say, okay, they might be in this whole area, but here it might be 350 feet, and here it might be 100 feet. That's going to be a lot easier. It might just give you a better idea of where you might actually find the fish. So that's a really powerful tool. And it takes some practice to get used to, but we're always available to answer questions. I'll give you more information on how to contact me and the rest of the NVS team later. But play around with it, see what you think. And again, we're like Jan mentioned, we're always looking for feedback. So that's the,
Rachel,
yeah, yeah, Charles.
so are we looking for areas where the pycnocline is within range of the surface? Like tuna, we're usually fishing the top 50 or 100
That,
feet. So
yeah, that's
if it's
exactly.
down at 200 feet, 300 feet, we're not as interested as if it's up close, like 30, 40 feet. Okay.
That's exactly. Thank you for specifying that. Yeah, so that's the thing. If you have this region that you know you want to be in this area because that's where the sea surface temperature and surface current pointed you, then you know that you want to be, wherever it's closer to the surface.
Okay.
So
And
it might just,
this is modeled, right? This doesn't depend on satellite shots.
no, that's correct. This is model.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Rachel,
Cool.
one
Which
other
will,
thing, just
yeah,
to clarify that the pycnocline is where the water density is changing. So below that is where the greatest water density is, but it's where the greatest change in density is happening.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
yeah. That's helpful. Thank you, Jan. But what it means is it's those points of convergence of different
Right.
waters. Yeah. Does that make a little more sense? The pycnocline is complicated. It's not intuitive. And then so a pycnocline, then we also, there we go, developed alongside that a thermocline. So this is where the water is about 2 degrees colder than the surface temperature. So again, this gives that same information, that idea where these different waters are converging and changing. And again, it'll give you an idea of the depth at which to fish. Um, so because your tuna fishers are generally going to fish at the surface, you're going to be better off where it's, lighter, warmer colors than where it's the darker, deeper colors. Yes, Jan.
Yeah, I've got a couple more questions from two different Dougs. So will the pycnocline identify where the sea surface temperature is most accurate? No, not really. So if you think about how the water density changes, and density is defined by how the temperature as well as the salinity. So both of those describe the density. And the pycnocline is where that density changes the most. Oftentimes there's kind of like this mixed layer on top, and then there's this period of change, and then below that is higher density. So more saline waters and typically colder waters below that. So the sea surface temperature is just right at the surface. And so the pycnocline, yeah, doesn't really affect that. So thank you for your, makes sense. Good. And then the other Doug said, is it also an indication of upwelling? And so, yes, when that pycnocline rises up, that can definitely be a signal that you have some localized coastal upwelling happening, bringing those deep waters to the surface. All right, back to you, Rachel.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jan. And then you can interact with that dynamic overlay with these thermocline and pycnocline as well. So just lots of cool tools. So Charles had mentioned cloud cover earlier. So here are some of the chlorophyll from satellites. This is from the MODIS satellite. And we have 1 day, 8 day, 1 day, 3 day, 8 day, and a 14-day composite. This is because of the cloud cover. Here, I'll show you the difference between the 3 day composite and the 14-day composite. It just tries to give you a better idea of those areas of high productivity, the areas where there's more chlorophyll. And by doing the composites, you can make up for that cloud cover. If you're looking at a single snapshot, it might have been a super cloudy day moment, and so you don't get a lot of information. So that's why we've developed and used these composite overlays. There we go. And we also have these static plots, which have the chlorophyll information from satellite in addition to surface current from HF radar. And anywhere you click on this map, the Latin long will pop up here, so you can look and see exactly where you're interested in. You can open this in another screen and save it if you want. And then one thing I want to mention is, so we get our satellite information from NOAA or from NASA, and it takes 1 to 2 days for that data to be processed and made available to us. So anytime you are looking at a 1 day composite, the plots are going to be 1 to 2 days old because it took that much time for the data, the image to be processed and made publicly available.
And how did you get to this page?
Oh, really good question. Here, let me show you. So here, can you see my mouse? There's maps, plots, and overview up at the top. That page is under plots. So you just select plots and this tab will come up. And then you can go back to map.
Rachel,
Yeah.
the plots is my go-to page actually, because it's so
Yeah.
quick and easy.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Charles. I know. Did you want to elaborate that at this point, or you're going to talk a little bit more about that?
Are you going to talk about the SST model down at the bottom?
I was not on this, but yeah, we can.
Okay. Well, let me jump in here.
That's this one. Please do.
The surface water temperature gets really frustrating, as you folks know, because you get cloud cover for 1 day, 2 day, 3 days. You don't have any indication. You don't have any data. That's where this bottom section, if you could mouse down to it,
Yeah, right
Rachel,
here, right
this
here.
this gives you a surface temperature forecast. Now, this is not satellite data. This is modeled. So you get one for today, and it's always there, regardless of how much cloud cover is there. And you get one for 24 hours out and 48 hours out, which is a hugely useful tool. Not only when the clouds are covering up, but you want to look 2 to 4 days out, a couple days out, you can do it here. So when the clouds are there, this is my go-to. It is a model. It is an approximation, but it's pretty darn good. It's actually pretty good. So this is a feature, one of the best features about NANOOS as far as I'm concerned.
I appreciate that, Charles. Thanks so much. And this thing, we learned so much from users on how you're using it, because we all kind of highlight and use it in our own way. So thank you for that.
Hey, Rachel, while you're paused,
Mhm.
I've been answering some questions in the chat, but just to bring them up for everybody, we had another question about the bathymetric overlay, and I mentioned the answer that you gave earlier about we'll wait for that. Wallace asked, do salmon prefer a range of chlorophyll concentrations, and that he thinks that tuna prefer 0.2 to 0.4 milligrams. I do not know that. And it'd be great if anybody has information on that. Go ahead and type in there. And then the last question from Doug is the raw data here the same source data being used by subscription services such as Terrafin? And I said likely not, because this is from a Oregon State University model. And I don't know what those other sources use. The OSU model is open source. You can look at the information just querying the model alone, but these plots, like Rachel is showing right now, have the satellite data and have the radar data and the model data combined. So it's a synthesized product. All right, back to you, Rachel.
Thank you. I do want to point out, though, that all of the satellite data is the same satellite data that everyone has access to. So the satellite data is provided by, who owns the satellite, which is NASA and NOAA. So everyone has access to the same satellite data, which takes time to process.
And now there's a request from Brian. Asking about the best chlorophyll for tuna, but then and someone has answered that.
That's
0.4 or less. But then he asked, can you give an example of how you would plot a spot using sea surface temperature, pycnocline, and thermocline?
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
A bit of a demo. I don't know if you want to do that now or postpone it, but
yeah,
up to you.
I'm just gonna really quick if we have time, I'll demo it live, but here I'm just gonna give a real quick and dirty. So for example, here we are on water temperature and currents. If I was going out, I would zoom further in so that I know exactly where I'm going. But I would look and see like, okay, here's that, here's an eddy, here's a break. So I would look at that location using sea surface temperature and surface currents. I want to see where the water is changing. And then I would take that location and then I would come over and click pycnocline and thermocline using that same spot. And then I would be like, okay, so it's going to be really deep right there. So that might not be very useful. So I might go to another location. And the same thing. Now, this isn't all looking at the same time, but that's the thought process I would go through. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I'm happy to demonstrate if I have time. And again, you can always reach out to me with specific questions, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we also recently have heard from people who are fishing for bottom fish as well as crabbers, and they wanted to know things about oxygen at depth. And thanks to the live ocean model, we're able to model oxygen concentration at different depths. And so here you can see I've got oxygen concentration selected, and then I use this little drop down and I go to the bottom, and then that gives me the oxygen concentration at depth throughout the region. So that could be really useful if you're going to set out your crab pots, get a forecast of what that oxygen concentration is going to look like. So for safe navigation, we also have waves, both wave period, wave height and direction, as well as wind speed and direction. These are through the Wave Watch 3 model, which we are currently, you can probably see these are old plots. The way that we ingested this data isn't working, but we are overhauling our server this month. And then the priority is to get the Wave Watch 3 back up and running. So by the time the next tuna season starts, we should have all of this going. But I just want to show you how to access it first and what we have available. So dominant wave period, waves, and winds throughout the region. Okay, and then jumped forward, but if anyone has any questions on that, please let me know. And Jan, you had mentioned NOAA nautical charts. So I'm just gonna walk through some of the other capabilities that are available on this web app, including these NOAA nautical charts. These are dynamic. You just select this button here and it will overlay across the region, and then you can zoom in to whatever location you're interested in. It has all the markers. You can also click this info button for the link on where we get those from NOAA. But these are always being updated, and so we're providing whatever's the most recent from NOAA. So another capability that the boaters that we work with have been using for years, and then the more work I was doing with some of the fishers, they wanted it as well. So this routing capability. So over on the far left of the menu, that layers, you go back. Layers gives you all of the different data overlays, forecasts, remote sensing. And then if you hit that routes tab, this is what pops up. So you select new route, and then anywhere you click on the map creates a waypoint. So get an idea of your route, get that waypoint selected. Then you can hover on a specific waypoint. Here, I hovered on this one, which gave me the exact lat and long at that location. Or you can hover over a segment to get the distance and the heading. You can, yeah, Charles.
So you're showing latitude and longitude in decimal degrees, and we always use degrees and decimal minutes. And I'm pretty sure there's a toggle, right? We can set it.
There absolutely is. And I do
Thank
have
you.
that mentioned for later, but just
Okay, sorry.
for now, oh no, that's totally fine. It is in the settings, so you can choose how you want your lat and long displayed, whether you want, your temperature in Fahrenheit or Celsius. There's a lot of things that you can change under that settings, and I do have a slide for that. So another thing you can do with this, you've put your little waypoints here. Maybe it's not correct. You can click and drag these. You can also, if you have the exact lat and long that you're interested in, you can enter that here. So this is very editable. You can make it your own. And then you can also download in a variety of formats. Now, one thing that we have heard, a request that we've heard a number of times, is people would like a way to upload their existing routes into NVS, but because of security and server space, we're housed at University of Washington, we just don't have that capacity at this point. But you can create your route within NVS and then download it for whatever tools you use. And then here I'm looking at the route that I just created, and I toggled on the NOAA nautical charts. So again, just useful tools to give you as much information as possible to get out on the water, find the fish, and then get home safe. And here we are looking at some of the forecast overlays along my routes. And you can turn these routes on and off. And you can, like I said, edit it, if you want to figure out, okay, well, where exactly am I going? I know on the map I want to go right here. So then you can change your route accordingly. You can just click on that routes, edit, and click and drag that over. It's also a really great way to get the exact distance that you're trying to get. Fuel is expensive. And so we want to always know exactly where we're going when we're out there. Now, this is a really cool capability that we recently developed. We've heard from people that they want to be able, oh, this is great, but it's still a lot of information. And so they'd love a way to create almost their own app, like a specific app. So we have this thing, we call it Snapshot. And the way it works is you get your window, you get your region, you get it zoomed in exactly how you want it. You have whatever data you're interested in, whatever overlay. You get everything looking just how you want it. Then you come down and you see the snapshot button. You click that and you hit create link. And this creates a specific URL that saves all of those things that you just told it to do. So you can bookmark this. You can just save this. Any time that you enter that link, NVS will open and repopulate exactly how you have it, just with today's data or the most recent data. So it's really cool, really powerful. And we're still learning ways that cool ways that this is being used. And so yeah, you can save those. Yeah, Charles.
So I can send that link to my wingman and my fishing buddy. Oh man, that's brilliant.
Exactly. Yep.
That's brilliant. Super.
Isn't that cool? I know. Yeah, I'm really excited about the snapshot capability.
Well done.
Yeah,
Hey, Rachel,
yeah.
Doug asks, do you have to be signed in to use the snapshot?
Good question. You do not need to be signed in. Anyone can do this. If you want to save your snapshots, you sign in. So here, I'll show you here. You create a username and password. This is just under this login up here. If you do that, and if you're signed in, any snapshot you create is saved automatically. You can go in and delete it. You can go in and change it, but it automatically saves any snapshot you created. If you're logged in, it also saves any routes you've created. So it can be really useful.
I can kill it.
To have that on hand. So you don't have to keep track of those specific links. Charles, if you're sending that link out to your wingman, you don't need to keep track. It's all within, saved within NVS if you're logged in. It also saves, I promise, those settings. So if you select the settings here, this pops up and you can decide what units do you want to use? How do you want your lat and long displayed? How do you want your y-axis plotted? That's not as important for this one, but if you do this while you're logged in, it will save your settings and you never have to do that again. So my last thing is we really lean on feedback from the community. We want this to be useful. We want this to be information that you need, that you appreciate, that you know how to use. It's not doing us any good if it's not useful. So we really utilize this feedback. So you can either go to more here and hit comment and write a message. This goes directly to myself and to Jan Newton, our executive director. And we use this all the time. This is how we've been able to grow this product, to grow these tools based on your feedback. So please utilize this. If you go home and you start playing around with this, with the Fishers app, and something doesn't make sense, or it's not quite clear, or you wish something was different, you think you need something and you don't see it, please send that to us because that's how we make this a more useful tool for you. And then, yeah, you can either contact us through that comment or send me an email. I do these demonstrations a lot. I'm at the Saltwater Sports Show every year in Salem. I also have done virtual and in-person demonstrations at like the Oahu Tuna Club and at different boating groups. I also have some people maybe on the call today, I forget, who have just emailed me, and we've done a one-on-one Microsoft Teams meet to like go over some questions. So please reach out and yeah, give us your feedback. Tell us what you think and what you need. And thank you
So
so much.
Rachel,
Yeah.
you are getting a lot of questions. So let me read them because we kind of wanted to do them in real time.
Yes, yes.
And so Wallace asked if he could get a copy of the presentation, and he would love to use it to train other charter captains in the company he works for. And he said that right when you were demonstrating the comment. So I mentioned that the recording will be available through NANOOS if you want to just use the recording. But if you want the PowerPoint, just write to Rachel, and I'm sure she'll work things out with you.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Wallace.
And then John Lee asked, is there a way to adjust the transparency of the salmon or tuna overlays so that you can see the charts beneath? The overlays seem to obscure them.
That's a really good question. And this is something that we have been thinking about and putting a lot of time and effort into with our user product committee. The challenge is that once you have multiple overlays with different transparencies, it's hard to tell what's what. And we've tried different ways with different arrows. We have not figured out the perfect solution, but it is something that we hear a lot, and it is something that we recognize would be really useful. So it is something that we continue to work on. And if you have other ideas, like, please let us know. And we're also, so I'll just say Troy Tanner, who's the lead of our user product committee, he and I were talking, maybe doing like a focus group, for this type of question and challenge.
And then another person, Lawrence Schaefer, said anything for modeling tide changes offshore.
We do have tides available in some of our other applications that we could definitely put onto this if it's requested. Yeah. So this is the exact type of information, the feedback that we are looking for, because there's a lot of information that we have, and it might be very straightforward to include it in this application, but we don't know unless we hear from you what you need.
Great. So I want to leave room for Charles, so I'm just going to conclude by saying there's a lot of comments here expressing appreciation, and these are wonderful, and I've hearted the ones that say thank you, Rachel, so that because I know she would. But if you have a comment, like some of these ones are great that you allow us to use, like when we go to Congress or when we're talking with important people, just put it in that comment section and let us know whether you want to be anonymous or have your name there. But some of these things, like, great use of taxpayer dollars and in all the things that we're helping you to do, those are really important for us to have. So thank you, and back to you guys now.
Thanks, Jan. Well, I want to turn it over to Charles and give you an opportunity. I'm going to stop sharing if you want to take it on.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. And I'm going to start with something really simple. Someone asked about this. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, hang on a second. How's that?
Oh, there it is. Chlorophyll 0.4 or less.
Okay. Yeah, this is for tuna fishermen, and a lot of people don't know this number, but you really want it to be 0.4 or less. That's milligrams per cubic meter of water. You don't need to know that. Chlorophyll is a proxy for clarity. We're looking for clear water. So the no go line is 0.4. 0.2 is marginally better, but if you find 0.4, you're in pretty good shape. I just wanted to talk a little bit about NANOOS. I recommend NANOOS to all my students for two reasons. One, it's good data, but two, they are supremely responsive. I mean, I have emailed them in real time, and I get a response very, very quickly. I've asked for features, they put them in. Rachel and her team, they're really part of our team. I consider them supremely responsive. So that's no kidding. If you have a problem, if you have a suggestion, talk to Rachel or Jan or anybody like that. They're really, really good. Okay, let's see. I've got a few minutes. I just wanted to talk about the general method. This is for tuna of how you use NANOOS. And so, I mean, this is what me and my buddies do. We get on NANOOS and we look for the intersection of 0.4 chlorophyll and proper water temperature around 60. And so I have this picture of this crazed fisherman with his partner in the background face planting, because when it's tuna fishing, we all go a little nutty and we need to recognize that. But that gives you a starting point. So now you text your starting point to your buddy, right? Let's start at 45, 30, 124, 42. 42, that's the chlorophyll line, okay? So then you get out there and things have changed. There's no fish there. Now you're starting to look for birds and whatnot and on the water signs, and then hopefully starting at that point and then doing a little on the water sleuthing, you get into the tuna. So that's pretty much the way I think most of us use it. Now, let's see, we've got some little bit of time. We talked about this, the chlorophyll, and this again is winter. So the 0.4 line is kind of this, this yellowish. It's pretty far out offshore. This is hundreds of miles offshore, but this is kind of what you're looking at. And again, I go to that plots page, the middle one on the top instead of the maps because it's so simple. Let's see. Now, this is what you're going to see when there's cloud cover. It's frustrating as all get out. And you'll see this day after. The purple is where there's a little hole in the clouds. You can actually get a shot for temperature or chlorophyll. So when you see this day after day, this is your friend. You go to the model at the bottom when you can get today, tomorrow, and the next day. Brilliant. I don't know. Maybe somebody could say in the chat, do the terrafins and the rip currents, do they have this feature? I don't know. I'd be interested to hear. But yeah, this is definitely your friend. Then here's another one, folks. Late in the summer, you go on and all the water is warm from the beach out to 200 miles. It's all warm and it's all clear. And at this point, the tool kind of it becomes much less useful. And during warm water years, this is just so frustrating because it's all you really can't pick a spot. You can't pick a spot. And at that point, you're reduced to going out there looking for birds, looking for breaks, looking for jumpers, all that other stuff. So just be ready for times when the water conditions don't really allow this tool to be used for a lot of good. Now the next one is, and Doug Wardell is here. Wardell, and he told me at the fishing show to look at the 35-foot depth for coho fishing. I have not used that tool, but I wanted to mention that because Doug's a really good fisherman. He looks not at the surface temperature, especially when it's warm in the summer. He'll look down at a 35-foot point, which you can do, and find coho that way. So that's kind of my spiel. I love questions. Anybody has any questions about this stuff? Rachel's your person. I'm also very happy to answer questions. You can contact me through my website. Um, and that's about what I got. So maybe back to questions.
Thank you, Charles. First of all, thank you so much for working with us. It's been such a pleasure. And yeah, happy to continue to do this work with you. And Doug, I didn't know that 35 feet depth for salmon because that's something we can definitely add. I told you that live ocean forecast overlay, which has the oxygen at different depths. We can do that with water temperature as well. So that's
Well,
potentially like an overlay we can add for salmon. Yeah,
let me be clear. He's using it already, so it's in there.
it's in there. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Doug?
Okay, so yes, what I do is I go into, I used to use the tuna fisher one, but now the salmon one, and there's a box that says surface. If you click on it, you can look at 33 feet, or I don't remember all the demarcations of it, but I look at those different depths because when the hot water pushes all the way to the shoreline and we're looking for salmon and they want 52-degree water, there's got to be cold water out there somewhere. It's just not on the surface. And so I start looking at those depths, and then all of a sudden, boom, these cold spots show up. And what's interesting is I fished for quite a few years. I have some special spots that were always my go-to spots in August and stuff when the water was hot that always produced. And I didn't know exactly why. I just knew there was some cold water trapped there. And when I use that your system, those spots show up every single time. So that was kind of my proof in the pudding that your system is giving me accurate information.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much, Doug. Also, you've been very vocal and very engaged, and we've learned a lot on how people actually use this data from you over the years. So thank you. And one thing I just want to remind everyone, Charles, you said when the water is all warm and, it's all clear and what can you do? This won't solve that problem because warm is warm, but you can change the dynamic overlay. I showed you how you can change the temperature range. And so you can get a higher resolution that way by changing the temperature, the lowest and highest temperature. But when it's warm, it's going to be warm.
Yeah, but that pycnocline may be a key. I don't know. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, exactly. Keep me posted. Let me know what you find this year.
Rachel, there was a question about naming the snapshot tools, which you can do.
Yes, thank you, Jan. Yes, you absolutely can. So when you are, you need an account to do that type to edit the snapshot. But yeah, you can like log in, you can rename them, you can delete them. You have a lot of different ways that you can really make that your own. Just watching the chats go by. So yeah, if there are any other questions, happy to take them now. Otherwise, spend some time with this, with the NVS Fishers app, spend some time with it and send us your questions. I'll put my email in the chat again, just in case, edu. And you can always contact us through that comment section online as well. But does anyone?
So the only other thing I would mention is I absolutely would be wonderful, and I know you're working on it, is we can get the bathymetry to show with the winds and the currents and things like that. Because I use that if I've got a north to south current, I want to be on the on the north side of a mountain peak because I know that's going to push that cool water up there, and that's where I'm going to go look for my Chinook. So those kinds of things is why that's real helpful if we can see the transparency of the layers, if we can see that bathymetry showing through that.
Yeah, that's really, really useful. And I believe that we had it so that the bathymetry could be overlaid with the sea surface temperature. I'll double check, but yeah, that will get added in again because I do recognize that's very useful.
And the what do I want to say, the detail of the bathymetry. What was there before was pretty low level. If you can bring that up, that helps a lot because when you look at that, a squiggly line all of a sudden becomes the side of a mountain and there's a canyon and you control the canyon and things like that and stuff. And so the more detail on that, the better, in my opinion.
Rachel, I'll echo
Appreciate it.
that.
Yeah.
And what we also find, we have fancy bathymetry on our various chart plotters and all that, but some of
Mhm.
that is highly imaginative. It doesn't necessarily reflect reality. So if you have something that's real and accurate, that'd be great. So I echo what Doug is asking for.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Charles. This is exactly the feedback we need because we don't want to spend our time looking for something if it's not what people really need. So appreciate that.
Um,
Hello, Rachel.
Go ahead. Was somebody going to say something? Ask a
Yes.
question?
My name is Joel. I'm a commercial fisherman from the Caribbean, and I've been a member of NANOOS for quite a time now, and I've been waiting for this app for a very long time. But the data that I'm seeing is only for like the Pacific Ocean. But I'm interested in most likely the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean because I do commercial fishing. And this data that you guys are showing here is everything that I'm looking for.
Mhm.
But I'm looking for that data in these specific areas, like the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. So then
Yes.
we've been a fisherman for over 10 years, and now I'm a captain. Like this, I've been using different apps also, but this one is giving you most likely everything and just on the one page, this one app, where you can just easily access everything easily without of get logging out of the system and coming back into the system to get what you want. So I think it's very useful, but as I said, I'm just looking for ways to get this data in my area. And
Mhm.
I would like to keep in touch with you guys and probably we can share feedbacks on how to achieve this.
I
Yes.
definitely appreciate keep in touch with us and provide feedback. And then yeah, I think Jan was going to answer the data availability question.
Oh, just that there are sister regional associations in the Caribbean. It's called Caracoos, and then in the South Atlantic called Sakura. And if you send us a comment, we can put you in touch and send you those links. And there's a few more questions in the chat that like people are having problems. The best way to do that is to send a comment with all the specifics. Tell us the browser you're using. Tell us what you are seeing and tell us what is exactly happening and that way we can reply. And so one more question, is there a way to drop a pin to mark a spot, then toggle between the layers?
I love that idea. I don't think I've heard that yet. There it doesn't it currently exist, but we are able to pin to make locations happen in the Tsunami app. And so I'll speak with our user product committee and see if that's something that we can add because I think that's a great idea. Any last questions?
Well, there are, but I don't know if you want to go overtime. We're almost at the top of the hour. Fish Whisperer is having problems with his browser, not letting him open the range change tools. And Randy had an idea, but it's not working. And then Wallace has a question to the group about, let's see, where did it go? Oh, I'm so sorry. There was a question if anybody had been using the thermocline tool. Here it is. Has anyone used the thermocline tool to look for cooler water when all of the surface water, the top water, is red hot? And if so, was it productive? That's really to the group. And that's it. Just lots of compliments to both of you, Rachel and Charles.
Thanks, Jan. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Charles, so much for joining. I was really, really looking forward to hosting this webinar. So yeah, thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here and see some familiar names out there, and it's always a pleasure to work with you, Rachel.
Appreciate that, Charles. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Send me your questions, send me your feedback. And yeah, have a great season. And if I don't see you before then, hopefully I'll see you in Salem next year. Happy
Thanks again,
fishing.
folks.
Okay.
All
Bye-bye.
right, thanks.